Hi, my name is Sylvia. I'm passionate about languages, English in particular. Welcome to my world of English. We are coming back to the format of interviews. This format was introduced in the World of English podcast some time ago, and today you will listen to a conversation with yet another person. This time it will be Ola. You will listen about her unique experience, how she studied the language, or rather how she acquired it, I shall say here, because she will tell you how much the natural approach matters here. With this talk, you will get to know her energy, her unique and very beautiful Scottish accent. You will learn how to pick up the accent, and you will find out whether it is difficult or easy. And you will get to know how to speak a language in which you still make mistakes. And I guess this is the situation we are all in, especially when we are beginning to study a language. You will get to know the tips how to learn the language through your interests and hobbies. So in fact, you will find out that it is so much easier than you think. Ola, thank you once again for being here with us and sharing your experience. Dear Ola, so nice to see you today.
You too. It's lovely to finally meet you in person.
That's true. So it's the first time for us actually to meet in person. I guess we have to explain how do we know each other, right? Well, because we work together. We work together. We both teach, and today we'd like to share a little bit of our experience, right? How it is to be a teacher. But your story, obviously, is a very interesting one because you haven't been living in Poland for quite a long time. Tell us about it. How did it happen?
Yes, I've actually, I spent most of my life abroad. It was up north in Scotland. My parents decided to move there when I was 9 years old. So this was about 15 years ago now. So yes, I went to school there. I grew up there. I spent a lot of time there.
Yes, but my question, I think I asked you that without cameras on, but I guess I asked you this question: why Scotland? Because many people, right, when we talk to them, they would rather go to
England,
course, right?
The States,
the States, exactly. But Scotland is not such a popular place. Why Scotland? And I guess that the story behind it's very interesting.
Interesting, yeah, perhaps. I guess my father would say it's very interesting. My uncle actually was studying up in Scotland in Edinburgh. Okay. So that's why my dad decided to, go with him and move up there. It's my dad is very interested in history. Mm-hmm. He remembered the Battle of Stirling Bridge, and he found Stirling on the map. He thought this would be a nice place to settle. This is the story,
But the story is truly amazing. How we just travel around the map and say, let's go.
We'll end up there.
That's a lovely thing. How much do you remember from it? From this moving. But how old were you once again?
Nine.
So you were still a little girl. Mm-hmm. So you spoke Polish, yes, because you studied Polish, you learned Polish back in Poland.
Yes, of course, yes. I went to school, and we didn't learn English in school, so my knowledge of English before I moved was nil. Mm-hmm. I don't remember there being any problems, when I started going to school.
You as a child, yeah?
As a child, yes, mm-hmm. As a 9-year-old, we started going to school, and I remember just sitting in class, being part of the furniture, really, for the first couple of months.
I love the expression part of the furniture.
Yes, and they gave me different materials to study. They wanted me to learn English, I guess, in a bit of an artificial way to start off with. Mm-hmm. But I remember speaking to my dad, this was after the summer, saying, please speak to the teacher because I'd like to be part of the class. I don't want to do my own thing. I want to go with the flow, with the learning, what they're doing. I guess that's when I was just sitting there listening, absorbing everything.
Yeah, would you elaborate a little bit on this artificial thing? Because we as teachers, right, we teach people the language, and of course we want to escape the artificial element there, right? So why would you call it artificial for yourself? And I guess that's something you didn't like, right?
Yes, but it was, I think the teachers didn't quite know how to react initially because I didn't speak a word of English. So they thought, okay, we'll just sit her in a corner, give her some textbooks, and she will when she's ready to be part of the class, when she's picked up the language a little, we will do lessons with her as, treat her as a student, as anyone else. But that didn't work for me.
Right.
It didn't work for me. I found it I thought I was a little isolated at first, So I remember telling my dad, please speak to the teacher. I don't want this. Even though I must have felt at that point that I understood enough to be able to be a member of the class.
Yeah. But that's a great thing you're mentioning right now, because it just shows that sometimes teachers and students, people studying both of us, somehow we just presume that somebody is not ready, but the knowledge is there, right? The heart is beating, the brain is remembering things. So actually, it's a great thing to push, to push a little bit, to go forward and just to initiate the conversation, the contact. We always repeat that this need of survival is the key thing, right? You just have to go there. And I can now quite understand that the artificial element is not something that you would do in your class now as a teacher.
No, of course not. I think, it's unnatural, right?
Yeah.
And we, sitting with textbooks and learning grammar and learning all these formulas and learning lists of vocabulary, off by heart, it doesn't work. It doesn't work because we are not able to transfer this knowledge then into real life, into a real life situation. So,
and it's an amazing thing. You knew that back then when you were a 9-year-old girl.
Subconsciously, I think, yes. But I wanted this interaction, right? I wanted this conversation, and I know that there were situations where I would say something wrong or people would not understand me. I know that, but I think when you're a child, you don't have this language barrier.
Exactly,
right?
exactly. So that's how the children have it, right? They just want to go, and they want to go forward. And this is what we encourage our students to do. Just go forward. Think you are a 9-year-old. Think you are a 5-year-old, right? Of course, it's difficult because we have all the background, but somehow turning into a child a little bit, right? It might help that this element of pushing, of trying, of just stepping out of your comfort zone, that this is absolutely necessary. Otherwise, you will be in this corner, part of the furniture, love it, part of the furniture, and nothing will change, actually. Yes, you will only have this impression that you're studying, but nothing will change.
Yes, but it's difficult for people. It's difficult for people.
Of course.
We are professionals in our own field. We are successful business owners, and we are, figures of authority for others. And I think now it is not being able to speak English fluently is perhaps sometimes seen as something which takes away from your professionalism, and I think that's what people are afraid of. So they want this. They want to be able to use the language, but they want to use it effectively.
That's right, but that's how we step into the picture, right? We are there, just to pull them. Come on, just stay with us, and we will help you out. We'll tell you how to do it. And then tell us what happened with you, because your language and I believe, right, that anybody who's listening, they would know that your language has this different standard, different variety, which is great, because then anybody who is starting, they can just get used to that, and they can just listen to a different melody of the language. Because English has those different hues and different melodies. Yeah. So what happened later on with you? How did you actually pick it up like that?
I must have. When you're a child, you pick up the accent, right? And obviously, when you're children don't see this kind of difference in whether somebody speaks a more British English or more Scottish English. I ended up studying in Glasgow, and Glasgow is very famous for having this kind of harsh
Glaswegian accent.
Yes, and fortunately, I have not picked that up, or at least I don't think I have. I know that there is a little bit of a twang to my accent. But
did you do it consciously? I mean, then because you went to school, right? You were studying there, so did you somehow try to get rid of that sort of thing, because we know that this Glaswegian accent might cause trouble, in a sense that people wouldn't like to pick it up, and you didn't. So your teachers somehow, they stopped you from picking it up?
No, I don't think so. I think it was natural. I don't know if we can stop developing an accent. I think it's something particularly at a young age. You just you pick it up naturally. So it's I don't think it's something that I didn't try to consciously control it, if that's what's. And at the university, you know, there are many people come from different countries to study. Glasgow is very multicultural, so there is a variety of accents there. It's not just.
So you were lucky in a sense.
Yes, you know, I am happy that I don't have this full kind of very broad Scottish accent, because I think when you go down to London, for example, it's seen as something quite inferior. And perhaps
that's what I meant. You know, when I was talking about this Glaswegian accent, that some people may perceive it as something inferior.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so we know that you were lucky. What about your sibling? Because we know that you've got a brother and a sister. Do I remember that right?
I have an older brother.
Yeah. Do they also have the accent, or maybe they don't have the accent?
They don't have a Scottish accent, no. My brother is older, right? So he was about 11 when we moved over.
I love it when you said it, 11. It's so Scottish.
11. Yes. When we moved to Scotland. So he found it a little harder to learn English, to lose his Polish accent. When he speaks English, he has a very strong Polish accent. You can tell that he is not a native English speaker. My sister...
Because when we listen to you, sorry to interrupt you, I guess we may have this feeling that you are this native speaker.
Near native, I think.
Yeah, near native.
Yeah. However, you know, I have been told that there is this some words I do pronounce slightly differently to a native speaker, and perhaps if you are listening attentively,
you are not, but you are very close. So we know that your brother has a bit of he has got this bit of
he cannot lose this Polish element of his identity.
Yeah.
But
what about your sis?
My sister, well. My sister was younger. She was about 5 when we moved.
Okay, so she was the youngest. So you were in the middle.
She was. So English is very natural for her. I would say that it's almost more natural than Polish. So no, she has no problem. She sounds like a native speaker. She feels very comfortable.
Yeah. So that's an interesting example of both you and your sister, because you came back. Yes, you decided to come back to Poland, and you had to switch back to Polish. So in a way, you can step into the shoes of our students, because you know how it is to speak a language you don't speak on a regular basis, so to say.
Yeah. Yes. I think it's, you know, at first I was a little worried. Being away from Poland for so long, that, you know, when you live in a country, when you're surrounded by the language, by English in my case, it's very natural for you. You're able to maintain a conversation on any topic in this language. But, you know, I had my interests, and I was listening to some content, some materials in the Polish language.
Yeah, so how did you keep the language? And was it a thing? Was it conscious for your parents? Did they make this conscious decision for you to keep Polish?
My dad always said, yes, when we're at home, we speak Polish.
Yeah.
Because he was very aware of the fact that we would lose it if we were not using it on a regular basis. And it is difficult enough knowing, you know, technical terms and you know, for example, talking about historical facts, etc., in a different language, because you don't have the vocabulary.
That's right.
We have this everyday vocabulary which we use at home, but maintaining a conversation at a higher level, sometimes I lack words. You know, I lack vocabulary.
But you mean in Polish?
In Polish, yes.
So how can you keep it going in a way that you mentioned interest, you mentioned books. So again, it's a lovely thing, because we are talking about the same thing, I guess. Like, this is studying a language or coming back to a language. But for you, it is coming back to Poland in a way. So what techniques did you use to keep it, not to lose it? So was it books? Was it films?
It was books. It was films. It was, for example, you know, listening to podcasts, listening to the radio, and it was just trying to be as absorbed in the language as it was possible.
That's a key thing. Yes, being absorbed in the language, any language. You want to do it, you have to just stick to it. You have to just expose yourself to it as much as possible. That's the key element.
And it's difficult, you know. It was difficult because for me it was more natural to switch into English when when there was, I felt at one point that I was able to articulate myself more in English.
Yeah, because you know more words.
Yeah.
And here we come to this context, and here we come to studying language, not through books in a sense that you've got this grammar that you read and somehow you try to remember what's written there, but through this context, right? So if you were interested in history, you read about history in a given language, and then somehow you learn about history through this language. And this is how it stays, rather than this artificial thing that you've got a word in one language and then you've got another language and somehow you try to glue it, right?
Yes,
so
of course.
the interest, they keep us developing, keep us going.
Yeah, and it is. I'll come back to this. It's absorption. It's trying to understand what you're studying, what you're learning in this given language. So it's trying to, because breaking through this language barrier, this kind of initial fear of, speaking English, of using it more, any foreign language, you want to reach this stage where you're starting to think in it.
Yes,
where
exactly.
you're not translating things word for word, when you're not, when you don't have your mother tongue constantly in the back of your head, you want to become at ease with it.
Yeah, but
almost.
you will do it only when you switch the interest. So like the language doesn't become the end in itself.
No,
but the interest, the book, the conversation, the friends, the travel. This is the thing that is there for you to keep you going, rather than just the language itself.
Of course, yes. It's not just the words. It's not just how we.
Because you will learn, of course. I always repeat that. So you will learn. Yes, of course. If you write I guess. Like everybody has heard about this experiment that some scholars, they took a dictionary, like A, B, C, and they started learning the words. I mean, all the language is there, isn't it? You just learn. And of course they failed miserably, right? Because without context, without the heart, the interest, something that is behind it, you will never remember. The brain will never accumulate the language.
No, of course not. Of course it's too, like we said, it's too artificial. It's too, it's out of context. It's unnatural. It's unnatural.
And how did you overcome, in a way? Because you told us that you didn't feel this fear as a little girl, when you were a little girl back in Scotland. But now you came back to Poland as a grown-up woman with your Polish. Let's say, of course, you spoke Polish, but let's say that it wasn't natural in a sense that your first language was English for the last... 9 years, so I remember right.
For the
so more than 9 years.
15.
You were 9 when you were there.
Was,
So for 15 years. So did you have any fear? Because this is something that the students come to us with. That they say that they are afraid. Did you have any fear when you came back to Poland and you were maybe slightly afraid that people wouldn't, I don't know, understand you, or they would hear that you are not originally from here?
Of course I did. Because the structure of the language in English is different, right? And like we said, this vocabulary as well. Sometimes I find that I just don't have the words, and it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing, because you're trying to maintain a conversation with someone. You're looking them in the eye, and you seem to have forgotten the most basic words, and it is for us so yes, I do understand this.
But how do you overcome it? Is it just you just keep going, or is it right now when you were in Poland? Did you decide to read more, perhaps, to somehow come back to this Polish ground, Polish origins?
I think it's talking to different people. It's talking to different people, and at every opportunity that you have, trying to go out of your comfort zone and trying to have this conversation, even if you feel like you're perhaps struggling a little. Listening to the radio, I find that is.
I'm a true fan of the radio, podcasting and radio, podcast radio,
because this is natural language as well,
and there is no picture. You see, so the only thing that is working there is the mind and the ear. So if you don't hear something, sorry, you will not understand.
Yes, it's constant kind of absorption. And it's it's trying. You need to have this distance, kind of between yourself and
your performance and how people judge you.
Yes, because you are not going. We all make mistakes.
Yeah,
we all make mistakes, and if we don't make them, we will not get better because we learn from them. So. Yes, I know it takes time, but it's...
And do you feel that your Polish has improved?
since I've moved back?
Yeah.
Well, of course it has, yes. Of course it has. I have more contact with Polish people, and I read a lot more materials at the moment, and it's definitely improved. Yeah.
And do you think that you have picked up any, I don't know, everyday Polish like expressions? Something? Did anything surprise you?
Everyday expressions are all right, because we spoke English, we spoke Polish in the house, so we had that. But it's some of I don't know. People behave slightly differently in Poland, as you know, right? It's a completely different culture, And back in Scotland, I was surrounded more by Scottish people. By English speakers, and these people have a little bit of a different culture. So it's we talk about different things. What about this visit at a supermarket? I remember once you told us about the visit at a supermarket and how fast it goes. Yes, that's yes. It's it seems like in the UK life is a little slower,
right?
In Poland here we rush into things a lot. We do everything quite fast. This was about 6 months ago when I came back. We visited a supermarket and we had quite a lot of items, to go through, to pack. And I remember that, before we were finished with payments, with everything, the next person was being, rushed and
was pushing.
along. Yes. And I thought, okay, we haven't even packed our bags yet. Please let us,
give us some
get
time,
our things
give us some
together.
space,
Yeah.
But the cultural aspect, something you mentioned, is also a crucial thing. Some people think that you can study the language without stepping into this area, like without thinking about these people or their culture, because language is, or culture, rather the other way around. I would say that culture is expressed through language, right? So all these expressions that are there, we can only study when we understand culture. And English is full of, I don't even know how to call it, but full of sailing expressions or water-related expressions, because that's an island, right?
We are under the weather. And
exactly.
We take a rain check.
Exactly. We are in the same boat. And with Polish, I would say it's more agricultural. We have more of this. And people somehow disregard it or they forget about it. But you have to help your brain to make these associations. To understand what is going on back there in the language.
And I think, even going on holiday for, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, trying to visit the country, immerse yourself in the culture, you will then start picking up this we say vibe, right? This kind of this atmosphere that is in the different country. And I think that can help you too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now I'd like to switch the conversation a little bit. I mean, I'd like to move to a different subject. You as a teacher, and tell me please how much of what you have experienced yourself studying the language as a little girl and then as a conscious person, as a grown up person, how much of it do you bring into your classroom? So. What elements that are working and what elements are not working? The artificial element.
Yes, I think this is it. Trying to create a natural atmosphere. And trying to make the students feel at ease, because when we feel comfortable, when we forget that we are making these grammatical mistakes, because we are when we are learning a language initially. It's trying to look at yourself as a learner and trying to understand that this is a process which takes time, and it's through this natural communication, right, that we will pick up the language. So I want to create an atmosphere which is quite friendly, right, where people can open up, where they can share their experiences, and when they know that they're not going to be judged, for example.
There's been another study, so I'll try to just add some scholar element to our discussion, but there's been this study that children, for sure, they don't learn from people they don't like. And I would say that it applies both to adults and children. So if we adults study the language in a bit different way. We are more conscious, and even if something is, let's say, wrong, we know we have to do it, blah blah blah. But we are still talking about this effectiveness of what we're doing, right? So children, they don't learn from people they don't like. And I would say that children, for sure, they don't learn from people they don't like. And I would say that if we adults study the language in a bit different way. We are more conscious, and even if something is, let's say, wrong, we know we have to do it, blah blah blah. But we are still talking about this effectiveness of what we're doing, right? So I'm sure in your teaching career, you've met people who will come to you and say, I've been studying English for the last 5 years, 7 years, but the effect is not there. The effect is very little. So we have to ask the question why. And this atmosphere, right? We have to help our brain because this atmosphere really helps to study.
Yes, it does. It does. And it's, in our line of work where we have this one-on-one teaching experience, you need to build a relationship with the other person. We need this interaction. You need to feel at ease. You need to feel like you are, like you're yourself.
Yeah.
But also
that you're almost talking to a friend.
Yes, and you're able to to let go of this kind of perfectionism sometimes.
Yes.
I've had students who, for example, start forming a sentence and they will pause and they will wait for my confirmation whether this is the correct tense they've used. And sometimes I don't know because in English, one word can change whether we use the, present perfect or the past simple, right? So I think it's trying to create this kind of atmosphere where they feel like they don't need this constant confirmation of, is this word correct? Is this next word correct? So it's trying to, it's trying to make them feel like they're talking to someone who is quite on the same level, a friend.
Yeah,
a friend.
like I said, almost like a friend. Because on the other hand, we are teachers, and what we do, and this is also part of our job, is to correct.
Yeah.
Because people come here and they also complain that I've been learning English, but nobody corrected me, so I don't even know. Because that's what we do with little children, right? When they say something. That's what I do as a mum. That when I hear some expression, I always applaud it, like yay, great. But then when there is a slight mistake, I say, okay, so we need a different ending. We need a bit of a different structure. But there is no correction through marks. Like gee, that's a mistake. And somebody will just stop talking to me. After a second. Yes, and that's the thing we are trying to change in the process. We are trying to show these people that if you are studying the language, any language, we are talking here about English, but that can be actually any language, you are like a child, right? You are back at school, and it is also a difficult thing psychologically speaking. Yeah. So how can we help them? Because there is this coaching also that we do a little bit, because we meet, as you mentioned, these business owners, top professionals, people who have the wonderful careers, but there is this one little element of the language that they lack,
sometimes they struggle
and they lose this confidence, right? And we are also there to pat their shoulders a little bit.
But sometimes it's good to look at other people as well and their use of English.
That's right. Always look at them. Always listen to what they say.
Because we meet students, and for example, a student I meet for the first time will say, oh, my English is not very good. I don't feel very comfortable.
We hear it every time, every single time. And then they maintain a conversation
and then
for
they
60
can
minutes.
speak with you and maintain a conversation and use sophisticated vocabulary, and complex grammatical structures. So I think sometimes they are not aware of how much they know.
Yeah. What does it come from? What do you think? What's your just even, I would say, like, private opinion here? Because we experience this almost, well, if not in every class, but oftentimes with the new students. People will sit, because what we do is online, right? They will sit in front of the cameras and they will tell us, I don't speak English. And then they speak.
Yes.
And where does it come from? It's really hard to explain.
It is hard because
logically.
It's I don't know, perhaps they feel like they cannot fully articulate themselves
or maybe there's been too much of the correction back then, like somebody, because when we correct too much, we just pay attention, draw their attention to the mistake, not to the success, right? And there has to be this positive reinforcement, right? The success is there, the communication is there, and the correction will come. But this is the second element. Yeah.
So but it is a fine balance. It is a fine balance between
we have to that's our job.
Between letting them, for example, finish a line of thought before you stop them because they made an error in a tense, But when there are too many mistakes, for example, it's also, there are some that we shouldn't, for example, let go too quickly. So so it is a fine balance. But I find that this ease of speaking, this kind of feel that I'm speaking a different language, and I feel comfortable doing it. Perhaps, communication is the most important aspect of speaking any language. So if they're able to communicate their needs, if they're able to
buy bread,
then they've achieved what they've set out to do. So it's after that, it's just a case of perfecting their use of language.
Are you surprised with anything when it comes to Polish learners of English? Because back in Scotland, you were teaching, you were working with other nationalities. Is that so?
Yes.
I
had a couple of Polish students, but they were young people from high school, essentially, just wanting a little bit of help with reading, etc. So this was slightly different, I think.
But other people, did they come from other nationalities? Because I've got this experience of teaching Spaniards, I think, and Germans, I believe.
Yes, I had a couple of Italians and a guy from China as well.
And do you think that we Polish learn English in a different way? Like, do you observe anything common for us, or
we focus on grammar way too much.
Exactly.
We focus on grammar.
That was what I was waiting for. Yes, on grammar and this performance. I would say.
The fact that we have 12 tenses in English, and I have to think
how
which
many
one I have
no
to
idea,
use.
Really, never counted. Doesn't help.
Yes, we focus too much on being, very correct, and we focus too much on these examples from the textbook.
Yeah.
And making sure that we have all the right endings, and that the words are all in the right order, etc. And but it's very difficult to then translate that into a conversation. So we rely on these textbooks way too much. Yeah.
So I would just sum up what we have just discussed today a little bit, that we as a nation, I think, we make one very common mistake studying English. And this is something I give this example very often, that when we think about Scandinavia, I would say that most people are bilingual even. So we can do it. It is possible.
Yeah.
But somehow the focus is on conversation, on this communication, not on this grammar correctness, full correctness. And that's why we are there to help people, right? So so we're giving them the helping hand.
Definitely, yes. I think move away from these textbooks a little, and just try to do it in a more natural way. Yeah.
Seems like a recipe for success, isn't it?
Definitely, yes. I recommend that. That attitude.
Yeah. So we both agree here, right? We both recommend the thing. And what can we say, right? We will keep on going. We'll keep on helping our students, and we'll keep on proving them that it's possible.
Yes, and and one thing that I like to do is sometimes show them how far they've come. Because I think that, and they can see that difference too. They can feel it, and they know they're a little more comfortable. But sometimes you have to remind them, because they forget. Forget, and it's very, very motivating when they think back and they.
That's a lovely ending, I think, to the conversation. The success element. So the success can be there. You just have to find the right path how to do it.
Definitely.
Yes. Thank you, Ula, for being with me today. Thank you for finding a bit of time to.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
To talk to me.
Thank
you. See you back at work.
Definitely. Yes.
Thank you.